Hey VC, Uncle Roddus here again. It's going to be the second time I've made this video because I made a complete hash of the first one. This thing about stumping the VC, that there's a few videos going around and I've been watching a couple of them here and there, and I'm thinking to myself that, well, I don't have a particularly large record collection just yet, and I'm thinking I probably haven't got anything that's going to stump the VC, so to speak, or that no one else has. So it was just by chance, kind of, yesterday, get my days right, a couple of days back, I was working in the city and I finished a bit earlier and ended up somewhere I probably shouldn't have been, i.e. my local record shop. So I was flicking through the bins. I usually head straight for the new release, the new arrival bins, see what's come in recently, and the jazz bins, and looked along the displays on the walls that they have, because that's where some of the better collectible records are obviously on display. And saw lots of things that interested me, and was on a pretty tight budget this week as far as records are concerned. I shouldn't have been spending any, to be honest, but saw a copy of the Dunedin EP, double EP, which James Buttery had showed on his Flying Nun for $40, and his Flying Nun video, which was going for $40, and that was pretty tempting. Good nick. Anyway, saw that on the wall, and I thought, I'll better have a look in the New Zealand selection. And so I went through all the bins there, and as I was going through the bins, there was quite a lot of Flying Nun stuff there. That was quite interesting, and probably quite original stuff. It's going for $30 to $40 a record, and a lot of those records were EPs, so they only had 3 to 4 songs on them. So they're quite pricey to buy. Lots of good stuff, and very tempting to buy, because I'm familiar with a lot of that music. I never actually had a lot of it in my collection at the time, but quite familiar. But anyway, as I was going through the New Zealand bin there, got through all the bins, got to the very last bin. They're all stored in alphabetical bins in alphabetical order. Got to the last bin, and right at the back of the last bin, lo and behold, was a record that I have been looking for quite some time. Now, it's a local band from my city, Christchurch, and it was around 1984 that they released this record, and I had originally had a copy of it. Probably got onto them from the student radio station here. They were playing it on high rotation at the time, like some of the songs off it, so I picked up on that. Didn't ever see them live, unfortunately. Anyway, I sold all my records 15 years ago, and that went with it, and slowly I've been replacing them all on CD over the years, and now I'm getting back into the vinyl again. And this album, up until recently, had never been reissued on CD, and so I'd actually asked the guys at the shop, I said, if you ever see a copy of it, let me know. Well, unfortunately they didn't, but just by fate, chance, so I happened to go in there that day, and there it was. So the record itself is this. Southern Front, self-titled, only LP that they ever released. Probably only made 500-600 copies of it. It was made here locally. The sheet's very flimsy, very thin, but it's cool. It's quite a cool cover. I like the cover. But yeah, it was a little boutique kind of label called Failsafe Records, and Failsafe Records originally released some cassette-only releases up until this one. And this is Safe 004, so this was their 4th release, and this was, I think, the first one that went on vinyl from looking on their website. Now, Failsafe is still around, not so much releasing a lot of new music. I don't think they're basically reissuing on CD a lot of their older stuff. But a lot of their early catalogue was released on cassette only. So it's pretty cool that I got this on vinyl. So it was released on CD again in 2013, which I didn't realise until now. But anyway, so I think it's pretty kind of hand put together from what I understand, because you can see the label there, and then it's got a different label on the back on that side of it. The record itself is pretty clean. There's a few pops on it, but it's actually pretty clean, and it's quite a solid. It's not a real flimsy one. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, the guy that sold it to me at the shop he was talking to me about it because he actually knew he was a musician, and he'd been in bands over the years, and he knew some of the guys, and he knew the guy that had taken the photo on the front, and he even said he'd even helped them, knew the guys in the band, he'd even helped them putting the albums and putting the sleeves into the albums and getting it all ready to go out. So it was a real backyard job at the time. So he said that one of the things he said they were doing was writing on the inside of the sleeves like this when they were packaging them before they put them in the shops, and he said they were putting in things like Motorhead rules and silly things like that. But my one here, it has someone's name written on it just inside here in black felt, but nothing cryptic or else like that. So anyway, so there may be likeliest that people that may have a copy of this could possibly be James, and because he's got he talks a lot about New Zealand music on his vids, and the other one may be Chris Walker from the Waiheke Radio, who does a vinyl Kiwi show. He's another one who quite possibly may have a copy of it. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone does have a copy of that. But I'm just rapt to get hold of that. Yeah, I mean, okay, I could have bought the CD, but the CD is actually a reissue with extra tracks as they do, and it's got I think one track that wasn't released on there, and it's got some tracks from the bands that they were in previously. There was a couple of punk bands around in Christchurch before Southern Front formed. They were basically formed from the ashes of those two bands. They were bands that were a bit before my time, so I really didn't know much about those. In the real early 80s I was still at high school, so not something I was onto then. And these guys, playing locally, but I never unfortunately got to see them at the time. So they went round for long. It was their one-off album, and I think it's a great album. Kind of musically, I would sort of think it's like The Cure, early 80s. Anyway, so moving on from that, just another thing that happened this week was I was working at an older gentleman's house, just one of my near neighbours here in my town. I live in Oxford, just out of Christchurch, about 60 k's out on the plains, and so not a lot of records around Oxford, but it is surprisingly what can be hidden away in people's garages. So this gentleman had a collection that we'd spoken about a while back. It's just a small, modest collection, maybe 40 or 50 records, and he doesn't play them anymore, and his eyesight's going, so he can't see to put them on his deck, and he hadn't played them for years. So I had to look through the collection and see if there was anything of interest to me. So it was all fairly mainstream, but from various times, actually from the early 70s through to the middle 80s stuff. But yeah, a lot of it was pretty familiar to me. But there were a few things that tickled my fancy, and so what I did was I grabbed, 20 odd albums, I suppose, off him. Several of them I already have on CD by bigger named artists, so I basically said, I'll get them on vinyl because they're not costing me very much, and see how they go, and be curious to listen to the vinyl versions as opposed to my CD versions, so can do the old comparison, see if vinyl's better. So anyway, first thing that caught my eye was this one. Now, I'm not familiar with this band. I've seen a few of their records briefly posted on the Facebook page, on the vinyl community Facebook page. So these guys, Rush, Farewell to Kings. I like the cover. It's got a pretty cool cover. That's one of the things that appealed to me. And we were in 1977, so I understand they'd been around a while then. Some good reviews I read about this album. So anyway, got to listen to it. Actually, I just got to listen to it tonight. Yeah, really interesting record. Quite impressed with it. Great playing. The vocals I'm a bit struggling with. He's got a pretty high pitched voice, the guy that sings. But in saying that, there's a lot of long instrumental stuff. So yeah, late period progressive rock. Yeah, I quite like that one. So just quickly flicking through a few of these. Got Sky. I mean, I've seen these guys around, not familiar with them really. Thought I'd give it a go. See what happens. This one, I'm not really even sure about this one, who these guys are, but I'll give it a go. To be honest, I was thinking at first it may have been like Rory Gallagher, but it turns out it's not. So, yep, see what happens. A Queen album. So I don't have any Queen records per se. I have a CD best of, you know, the big famous one that they put out. They sold billions of copies of all their hits on it. So yeah, good to see some Queen. And you know, I've been meaning to buy Queen for many years, but you know, there's always something else to buy. So picked up this copy of the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper. Unfortunately, someone spilt something on it, so it's in not very good condition, but I'm hoping I can clean it up. But again, I have it on CD. This classic here was one I used to have on vinyl many years ago, and I went and saw the movie and really enjoyed it. Love Talking Heads, great band, and this is a great live album. And again, I didn't have a copy on CD, so that's good to pick that up. Another one of a bit more of interest was this one here, Jethro Tull, War Child, 1974. So this was about their fourth album. I think it came out just after the Thick as a Brick album. Haven't actually listened to it yet, but it's a nice clean copy. The cover's okay. The original English pressing, no, tell a lie, this is a New Zealand pressing. Okay, so yeah, the guy that I bought them off, he was English, and so some of these he'd brought in England, brought back with him when he moved here many years ago. So something that was another one that was of a more interest to me, Hawkwind. This is something like their fourth or fifth or sixth album. This was 1975, Warrior on the Edge of Time. Now, I'm not familiar with Hawkwind's music too much, but I really dig the cover. And first of all, we've got this. As you can see, it's a chieftain shield. And also, we have this. So we've got the cover folds out, if you can see that properly. So yeah, that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. So I had to listen to this last night. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Hawkwind, but I haven't been, and I'm still, yeah, it's got some good bits in it. I'm not sure about it yet. I'll give it a few more spins and see. But I love the cover, great album, and quite a find. Probably don't see that around too much in the shops. And another one that was of interest, I love the cover on this one as well, Vangelis, 1976, Albedo. This is synthesizer, keyboard music, of course. I guess most people would know that. I bought it because I'm not a big Vangelis fan of his later stuff. We all know Chariots of Fire. I mean, it's an okay bit of music for me personally. But this is actually quite interesting. Very good quality recording, and yeah, some interesting stuff happening on the synthesizer. Gentle Giant. Now I've seen a few of these being flashed around the VC. I used to have a couple of his earlier albums on vinyl many years ago. This one here is from 1977. Not a particularly great album. I think the production's pretty weak and the drum sounds are pretty weak, but there's some interesting things happening. But yeah, I think they were kind of losing it by then. Sky 2, so I got the second album that these guys put out. Double album. Had a little listen to it this morning, but haven't really had a chance to do much with that yet. Here's another one that's quite interesting. So you all probably know this is Elvis Costello, Armed Forces. This has got some tracks. I'm not a big Elvis fan, but I do like some of his stuff. Radio, I think is a really good track, and watching The Detectives, Oliver's Army, which is on here. But what really intrigued me was this here, how the album folds and unfolds. So there's the inner sleeve there. And then this is the album. So that's the inside of the album that folds out into this. So I think that's pretty far out. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I'm not sure how many copies of this are available like this. I mean, I guess in England there will be quite a lot of them. I don't know whether there's so many here in New Zealand as such. There it is. So that's really cool. I like that. I've never seen that before. So we'll actually get a chance to listen to it because there is some good ones in it. And some good music in it that I do like. And see what the rest of the album's like. I'll try and put it back in the sleeve later. That's a bit of a tricky one. Paul Simon's Gracelands. I remember this when it came out. Never owned it, but it wasn't my cup of tea then. But it's a pretty famous album, and there's some good stuff in it. I mean, and I know some of the songs, and have heard them again recently, and quite liked them. So decided to give that a whack. Another Queen album, so this is I guess it's their biggie, Bohemian Rhapsody. So I've never heard this album. I mean, I know the hits off it, of course. So looking forward to hearing that. And then another Talking Heads, Pink Floyd album. Love Pink Floyd. Got this on CD, but grabbed a copy of this on vinyl just to have a listen to it. And I mean, like I say, it didn't really cost me. And then to finish off, a couple of Bowie albums. Again, got them on CD. I mean, I love Bowie, love these albums. So it'd be interesting to have a listen to the vinyl versions and compare them to my CD copies. Right. Just one more thing I wanted to touch base about. Now, I remember Ben Costello, he mentioned that I think he was doing one of the Stump the Vinyl community video logs, and he did mention he wasn't sure whether it was just about vinyl or whether it was about CDs as well. So just in case the other one doesn't work, I've got another thing that may be of interest and maybe quite an unusual artifact in the collector's issue. Now, this is CD. I mean, it's not vinyl. This was never released on vinyl. This is TG24 Throbbing Gristle. Throbbing Gristle put out a box set of cassettes way back in the very early 80s. I mean, they went around for a long time. Industrial music, pretty heavy listening. So the box set of the cassettes, they were quite legendary, and in 2003, I think doesn't tell me on there, about 2003 they remastered them and put them onto CD and made this limited edition box set. So with the box set, you got your 24 CDs of 24 different concerts. All concerts were an hour long. They basically just improvised with their electronics and their effects and with Genesis P. Orridge doing all sorts of weird vocals and telling stories and stuff like that. And they would do it for 60 minutes, and then they would stop, and that would be the end of the tape. So they would keep the tapes. So they did 24 concerts. There's other concerts around. Some of them weren't possibly were too damaged to re-record them or to reissue them. And plus there was another 10 CDs in a box set issued after this one called Throbbing Gristle. It was Throbbing Gristle's TG Plus. So that was another 10, which makes 34 CD concerts all up, which pretty much covered just about every concert they did. There might have been 3 or 4 others that weren't, like I say, there were some they couldn't reissue because they were too badly audio damaged. So that one I ordered just after this one came out. It was probably the next year or 6 months later or whatever it was. Ordered it from Amazon because they weren't available here, and unfortunately it disappeared in the mail and I never saw it. Full stop. So got my money back, thank God. Emailed them and told them, after about 3 months of waiting, and so it disappeared somewhere on the way through Europe. So someone ended up possibly with it, or it just disappeared and was never found. But anyway, tried to buy another copy of it, and unfortunately it was all sold out by then and I couldn't get my hands on one. So anyway, this one here came with a little envelope here, which originally had a sealed wax seal on it, like they used to do in the old days. And inside of there is the booklet with a listing of all the concerts and a bit of some notes from Chris Carter and Cozy Fantuti and that guy, and from when they re-released this, and some postcards and pictures and things like that. So so that's it's a pretty full-on box set. It's probably the most expensive one I own. So there it is, TG24. I understand there are still some copies around on Amazon, but they're selling for about $1,000 now. So I don't know. So maybe I've stumped the community there, but you never know. Anyway, that's me again, another video done, and thank you for watching.